What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome back to episode number 21 of Park to Prem here with Nottingham Forest. Today we start our 10th season of Park to Prem. That is kind of wild to think about. At this point last year in Park to Prem, we were taking Towlaw, I think, into the Championship. So it's a slightly different pace this year, but nevertheless, it's been one hell of an adventure. And of course, last episode was exceptional. If you missed it for whatever reason, please do go back and check it out. It went down to the wire. The last highlight of the game was determining stuff. And, since then, we've gone away for the summer. And, the first bit of great news actually is we are in the Europa League, everyone. Yes, we're going straight in at the group stages, which is good for us. We're not going into the UEFA Conference or whatever, the third, the one that I don't really want to be in. We're not in that one. Europa League is big for us. Previous winners, Real Madrid, Juventus, Arsenal, Wolves. Yeah, some pretty big names in there, and then Arsenal. But all in all, it's going to be a fun little campaign this year. And obviously, off the back of qualifying for European football, the big thing was to bolster the first team. And I do feel like we've done that. You'll notice a few new names, perhaps, in the starting 11. Shall we look at the transfers we've done since we were last here? We have spent £62 million so far this summer. There is still a little bit more wiggle room. And we've also sold £23 million worth of players. So not an insignificant amount of players departing. Anyway, let's talk about the outs first and foremost. The first of which was Finlay Robertson. You may remember this guy as the bargain buy that we got from Burnley. Sadly, he just didn't really feature in the team last year. Just didn't really perform at a Premier League level. With that said, he's a good Championship player. And he's now departed to Southampton for £13.5 million. That is a massive amount of profit, that there is no denying, for a player who, I'm going to be frank, just really failed to impress last year in the Premier League. A few other players have left us. Arroyo has left us to go to Empoli in Italy. Of course, he joined us from Frankfurt a few years ago, was a good squad player in the Championship. With a changing system, with us going up a level, I just didn't quite think he was up to snuff. £5 million for him is not a bad sum of money at all. And then a couple of players who we've just let go for smaller amounts of money. Sebastian Franz has gone to Hertha Berlin, a good little German right back, but a player who we signed a few years ago and hasn't ever really got going for us. Dale Notch, you may remember, as one of our very first transfers at the club. We signed him from Celtic for £1.7 million. It would be fair to say he's never really been given a chance, but then when he was given chances, he didn't really perform. I think he is just a Championship quality player, and he's gone to Bristol, and perhaps his average ratings are demonstrating just that. Anyway, Jordan Hackett left us. He was a centre-back way back in the day. A few players leaving on frees. Perhaps the most notable is Maranon, who's gone to Villarreal. This guy is not a bad little player, but he's just not... He's not quite good enough. He's not quite the standard that I'm looking for. He didn't want to sign a new deal, so we ended up losing him on a free. And besides him, a few players going out on loan. The most notable is Leighton Stewart, and a ton of perhaps unfamiliar names going out on loan as well, who may just appear on the left side of your screen. So anyway, let's talk about the transfers we've made, and I think we'll start by talking about the first team players. The first of which is David Lind. Now, we've signed him from Copenhagen for almost 20 million. That was his release clause. It's a lot of money, but I was just struggling to find English players to sign. I want to get in, a few more English players in the under-21s. David Lind is the kind of youngest player currently featuring quite comfortably at the age of 18 years old, compared to the kind of fees that teams in England are expecting for their English players. 20 million isn't actually all that much in the grand scheme of things. I think he's a really good player. He's only 18, good personality, wonder kid description, ready to, play first team football, I think, this year. And that's something that was critical. With us qualifying for Europe this year, our squad is going to be put under extra strain, and we needed to solve it. And another midfielder we brought into our ranks, I'm hoping is going to be the solution to our deep line playmaker on defend woes. It's this guy, Gustavo Asuncao, who I believe I've had in 2 save games last year in FM20. In one of those saves, he was amazing, and the other, he was very average. Let's hope that we've got the better version of him here. But he looks great. 18 composure is superb. 16 decisions, 16 passing, 16 vision. This guy is an out-and-out playmaker, but With 14 tackling and 15 positioning, he's very astute defensively, and I think he's going to be an ideal player to slot in for us. We have signed him for £11.5 million. He was transfer listed at Valencia, and already his value is more than double what we paid for him. So excited to see what he can do, perhaps slightly on the older side of things, but a bit of experience in the team never goes amiss. And while the last of the real kind of first team players you're going to see a lot this year is Tobias Hufnagel Sprinzing. That is not going to fit on his shirt. That is not... we need a nickname. And I'm tempted to call him just, I don't know, the Spring, because he jumps really high. I can do better than that. But at 24 years old, he's played a couple of games internationally for Germany. We signed him from Hertha Berlin for £11.5 million, which I think is a really good deal. He's not kind of a top-quality, world-class elite goalkeeper, but make no mistake, he's a German international. He was playing for Hertha Berlin. He finished 5th in the Bundesliga last year. And he's just a really, really well-rounded goalkeeper. I think he's going to be an upgrade on what we've had previously. Of course, previously we've had the likes of Stokes, for example. Compared to Stokes, he's just a straight upgrade in every department. And for £11 million, whilst his wages are not small, I think the transfer fee is just a really, really great piece of business. Anyway, a load of youngsters have joined us. I'm going to go through these kind of quickly. Declan McCall has joined us from Celtic and gone on loan straight away to Birmingham. He is a top-quality 17-year-old playing regular championship football. Great potential. To sign him for £6.5 million was a really good deal, in my opinion. Obviously, the proof will be in the pudding as to whether or not he develops. We then have Hamadar, who has gone on loan to Atalanta in MLS. He is a Syrian international goalkeeper. Yes, that's not a combo you see very often. A Syrian goalkeeper. He's only just turned 18. He looks absolutely top draw. We've signed him for £3.5 million. There's some clauses that could see that rise to almost double. You know what? For that kind of money, we've got a unique nationality, great goalkeeper. I'm excited to see what he can do over the course of this year. Boubacar La has joined us from Lens. He is a left back who can also play right back, which I kind of like. A lot of potential with this guy. May feature as a squad player if we had an injury crisis, but ultimately at 18 years old, great potential, signed for peanuts, 2.6 million we can kind of afford. I have also signed 3 Koreans this year. Sometimes in Football Manager you get these nutty Korean regens, and I thought for the price that you get them for, it's worth a punt. So we've brought 3 of them in from Pohang. The first is Young Jung Hyung, who looks absolutely incredible. 13 international caps at the age of 19. Unfortunately, his potential might be limited, but nevertheless, he is a good little player. We'll keep a close eye on him. Signed for just under £2 million. I think it's a bit of a bargain. Obviously, we'll have to see how he does in MLS. Kim Jung-soo has joined us and gone straight to Derry City. He's perhaps the player with the most potential out of the Korean players we've signed. 1.5 million spent on him. He's going to be playing for Derry this year, so very interested to see how he gets on. Great pace. Good technicals for advance forward, and I think he has a little bit about him. He's only 18 as well. And the last of those players is Sungju, who is currently on loan at Dundalk. He's a centre-back, a little bit of potential, very good current ability, to be honest. The kind of player that, for less than £1 million, I'm pretty confident I could just sell on for a profit if I wanted to next summer. That's the kind of, approach we can take with these players. If they don't hit the ground running, if I'm not wowed by them, ultimately, with the kind of contracts they're on, it's not that much, and we can look to shuffle them on for some money if need be. Anyway, 2 more players to go through. The first is Dino. He is a Brazilian forward. Great technicals. Lacks a little bit in the physical department. He's not the quickest player. He's not the strongest player. He's not great in the air, but he's technically gifted. At 18 years old, I'm happy to take a punt. I'm very happy that he got a work permit. And the last player we've got is Jonas Huttenen. That's probably how you'd say it in Finnish. It sounds good, doesn't it? Following in the footsteps of Leskinen of last year, we need to get a Finnish player in. He's 18 years old. He's got 7 caps at international level. He looks like a really good ball-playing defender. Super technical, pretty good with the ball at his feet. Very keen to see how he gets on. He is going to be on loan back at HJK for the next 2 years, getting regular first-team football. For the fee that we've paid of 1.1 million, it's just a no-brainer. We're in a position where I've got this money. We've still got 26 million in the bank just to spend on transfers. The wage budget is comfortable. I want to start investing in the long-term infrastructure. And in fact, just looking at the reserve team, you can see how many players are out on loan this year with a fair bit of potential. I'm not sure how many of them are ever going to make the step up to the first team, but ultimately, If only 2 or 3 of them do step up, if only 2 or 3 of them can be sold for £20 million, it's still a massive amount of money it allows us to inject into the team. Just worth noting, in terms of loanings out, of course, Hoffman is still at Dusseldorf for 1 more year, keeping a close eye on his development. I will say he didn't improve a great deal last year. You may remember we signed him for £7 million with an agreement to loan him back for 2 years. Elsewhere, if we just look at goalkeepers, I've loaned out Molyneux this year, just because he was complaining so much about lack of first-team football. Obviously, we've brought in a new goalkeeper. He isn't going to get opportunities. We're going to hope that he has a really good spell in Liga, and potentially we can move him on for a little bit of money. And there's a few other players here that you might notice in terms of the reserve teams, players out on loan. Leighton Stewart's at Newcastle this year in the Championship. Steve Chalobah was a player we took on as kind of a little bit of a punt from kind of Man City a couple of years ago now for 1.5 million. Obviously, he had a good spell at Bristol. Last year, he didn't really wow in the reserve team, so this year we've loaned him out again. He scored already in the Championship. Also, I've just called Bristol City just Bristol. Rovers fans, don't come for me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Anyway, that's a little bit of an update on how the team's looking. In terms of players out on loan who I'm most excited about, Cameron Ferguson has to be top of that list. He's listed as our hot prospect. We signed him for just over £500,000 from Hearts. Last year at Colchester, he got the League One Golden Boot Award. This year, stepping up into the Championship, hasn't had a great start at Villa just yet. Hopefully, he's going to prove his worth to them. He's a really talented player, though, and at 18 years old, he's a player who I think could be in the first team in a couple of years' time. Anyway, that's a little bit about the transfers, who's come in, who's gone out. In terms of how we line up to start the season, this is how we look for this year, and it's not that radically different. Of course, we've got the Spring in goal. I can't go with the nickname of Spring. Maybe I'll just call him Toby. Toby's quite a nice... Toby, or Toby, it's Toby. Toby's in goal for us. I think he's a big step up, as I've already said, so he goes straight into the first team. Elsewhere, Sun Sao comes in for Mateus Fernandes. That doesn't mean that Fernandes is like a bust by any means. Fernandes, you can see, has much better physicals. At 31 years old, it's that experience that we kind of like. He's nowhere near as good mentally, nor, I think, technically for a playmaker, but Fernandes can play a whole host of roles, so he's an ideal player to have on the bench this year. And elsewhere, the only real notable change for this first game of the season against Leeds United is Erk starting out on the left-hand side. I want to kind of show faith to this guy because his potential seems really good. He developed a lot last year whilst learning a new position. And as far as inside forwards go, he's a really, really blooming good player at the age of 19. I want to give him the opportunity to flourish. And you know what? Despite a bit of a lacklustre first season that maybe has that one flashpoint we'll think about where he missed that golden opportunity, I think on the whole, on balance, he is worthy of a shot in the first team this year. On the bench, Luis Navio is here, not Damani Grimes. Navio developed so much last year that I expect him to be in the first team at some point this year. I talked about it a lot, but he and Damani Grimes is kind of the big thing I'm not sure about just yet this year. It's kind of the thing I've gone back and forth on. There's no denying that Damani Grimes isn't as good a player, but because Damani Grimes is the club captain, is an influential player in the dressing room, and make no mistake, last year put in some absolutely top draw performances, I just find it very difficult to justify dropping him. You can see a 7.12 rating, 2 assists, 3 goals. He was really good for us last year, and you know what? He's a good player. You can see he's consistent. He has good important matches. Whereas for Navio, he might be a great player overall, but because he's so inconsistent, he's never always gonna, perform to these attributes. These are him at his peak. I don't know how reliable he's going to be. He didn't really get a chance to prove his reliability last year. He will get that this coming year. That there is no denying. Elsewhere on the bench, you can see Hayden Roberts is locked down. I really like this guy. Obviously, we brought him in a few years ago to play the left centre-back position. But in terms of as coverage as our left wing-back, I think he offers a fair bit there. I don't think there's a glaringly obvious issue with him as a backup player this year. Last year, he didn't get too many appearances. I imagine he'll get a few more this year. Elsewhere, obviously, Mateus Fernandes is on the bench alongside new signing David Lind for £20 million. You can bet your bottom dollar he's going to feature. And then, of course, we've got a few other youngsters in the team. Dr. Medj has continued to improve over the summer. Marcelo, slightly on the other side of the spectrum. He's been in a gradual decline, but we're not going to panic too much just yet. The 19-year-old, obviously, a great weapon to have on off the bench with his insane aerial ability. And perhaps, a bit unfortunately, Wilson Tamake is going to start today on the bench. Obviously, played in every single league game last year. 33 starts, 5 appearances on off the bench, 17 goals total. If Eric doesn't perform, Samake is a player who I know I can rely on to bring straight back into the team. But I am kind of thinking about the longer-term future here. If we just compare the two players, you can see them head-to-head. Samake lacks a little bit in the pace and vision, more than makes up for it going forward in terms of aerially, technically, and attacking-wise. I think one thing to expect this year is I will be rotating the team more. Last year, I didn't really rotate the team all that much. This year, squad management is going to be a much bigger thing, just because of how intense the league season is, combined, of course, with that European campaign, which we don't know when it's going to begin, but sometime around here, we're going to be thrown into the group stages of that. So just to have a look at our pre-season expectations, you can see here the board wants to reach the first knockout round of the Europa League. That's going to be a little bit of a test. Mid-table in the Premier League is kind of where I'm thinking we'll end up. If we could mount a challenge for back-to-back European seasons, that would be superb. But I do think that we are going to feel the effects of a more compact campaign with far more matches being played. You can see the longer term aspirations just continue to be established in the Premier League. The board don't have that bigger aspirations for the club this year, it feels like. The media prediction is 11th, so again that kind of reflects that mid-table standing we're viewed in. Of course, last year we managed to outperform what was expected of us. And in terms of the season preview here, we are down in 14th. Our key player is Adrian Smith. He's signed a new contract. He's committed his long-term future to the club. I think he's just a really great player to have to build around in the centre of the midfield. Smith did disappoint a little bit on the pitch. Hopefully he can step it up this year. And well, let's get into this game. We are taking on a Leeds United team who are very, very good. One thing I forgot to mention last episode, which is almost certainly worth mentioning just now, it's a bit of a random point to mention it, but Boston United, they won the League One playoffs, everyone. Boston United and Lincoln are both in the Championship this year, so both teams that I've managed in the past, hopefully feeling a little bit of my legacy. That's what I'm going to tell myself, at least. Obviously, we left Boston many, many years ago now, but still, that money that we gave them back in the day, for Sam York, I think that's probably helped them on their way. Anyway, looking at Leeds United's team for today's game, they've got some good players. They signed some players who I was actually looking at one point. Karamoko Dembele being one of them. In terms of our team, it's dominated by regens, everyone. Although, given the fact we're 10 years in the future now, perhaps that's not entirely surprising. Wolves v Arsenal, the only other teams yet to play. They play on Monday. This is the late kickoff on the Sunday. Away from home, not going to be easy, but of course we took on Leeds United just last episode, so hopefully we're going to be able to match that kind of performance again as they have an early chance. Dembele kicks it forward, it's cleared away superbly. Regina to Erk, what can we do on the counter? I guess that's Amlo in the middle because he's just a giant. Erk goes all on his own, probably should have pulled it back, but to be fair, Amlo didn't look keen to create some space for the cross. Cleared away by Leeds, and after 10 minutes, I mean, we've had the first chance, we've looked okay there, not come out the kind of traps immediately this year, but of course, a new season, it's always a little bit slow to get going, it feels like. Maybe we can make something happen here, though. Just in terms of, a few other bits, that's not what I want to see, right? Well, I'll come back to what I was going to say here. Tahir brings it forward, puts it wide. Thought the keeper probably had that covered. It's going to be interesting to see how Toby does in goal for us. What I was going to say is, Regina at right back, I had a very big offer for him that I rejected. It was... I don't even know if I wanted it. I rejected a £60 million bid for Regina. Firstly, because I didn't want to get rid of him. Just personal sentimental reasons. Secondly, it was about a week before the season started. Didn't want to be looking for a new right back. And thirdly, he's actually homegrown at club alongside Peter Shaq. So with that in mind, to have two players who are, people who I see being a really big part of our future, be homegrown at club, I just kind of want to keep them around for as long as possible. I don't think you can really put a price on players homegrown at club, especially for us where we need them now, being in European football. Anyway, I told the players I was delighted with how things are going. I thought a 0-0 draw away from home against Leeds was actually quite a good result. Apparently they disagree, so they've all reacted negatively, but we'll just shout demand more 2 minutes after the half-time. Hopefully that can solve things. That looked offside. It's gone wide of the post. Was it offside? It wasn't offside. Okay, well, we've got very lucky there. That's a golden opportunity for Leeds United, who are still yet to hit the target in this game. I think you've got to ask some question marks about that. No goal, though, for either team after an hour. It's not really been a classic to start the season. We've not seen Toby have to do too much in goal, it feels like, this year. Well, so far this match. This year, I guess, technically correct. Either way. Addons winning the ball nicely. Very keen to see how he does this year because Mateus Fernandes at deep line playmaker did not wow me. Addons, what can you do? I mean, he's just... I shouldn't have said anything. Seka, what can you do? The young player of the year, let's not forget. Had a very quiet second half of the year, but his first half of the season was so good for us. I'm hoping he can find that form again. Ball forward to Amlo. Smith, back to Amlo. Lovely build-up play. Is there end product? No, there's not. Kamara kicked straight at him, parried it wide. And, well, 30 minutes. We've got a corner. Ball whipped in. Piotr's almost under it. It's cleared away, but only as far as Smith. Back to Seka. He's offside. He's offside. It doesn't matter. Right, let's make some subs. Ricketts has been quiet here. I'm going to take him off for David Lind. Elsewhere, Urka's not had a good game. Samake, come on down, my friend. Let's get some fresh legs on the pitch. Very interested to see how Lind does. Of course, signed from Copenhagen for almost £20 million. But at 18 years old, you know, there's not... I don't want to say there's not too much pressure on him to perform this year. Obviously, it's a longer-term investment, his addition. But if he could have an immediate meaningful impact on the first team today, that would be quite nice. Where is he? Lind. There he is. Number 21. That's the episode number today. Maybe that's an omen. Anyway, tackle comes in. Comes to Samake. Smith to Lind. Nice passing around. Lind, just pass it well. He's got dispers. Every time I talk about someone, they're ballsing it up. I should just not say anyone's name. Or maybe just say the opposition names. Williams with it. Lind chasing back. Quinones to Jenkins at the edge of the box. Now with Agume. They've knocked the ball around very nicely here. It's a lovely move. I can't even be mad. Leeds United with a great goal by all accounts. Oh, I mean, it's unfortunate. is the current situation. It's unfortunate. Let's just try and up the tempo, press a little bit harder, a little bit higher. Obviously, Leeds did well last year. Leeds were, you know, a team who qualified for European football last season. And playing them away from home is never an easy start to the year, but we've just not got going here. We've just not looked good. Let's demand more. 5 minutes left of the game. They've had one shot on target and it's gone in. They've crafted out one golden opportunity. And that's all it takes. The one shot on target. Tobias, I don't know if he actually made a save in that game. We had the better XG. We dominated possession. 53% dominated. Okay, maybe I'm stretching the truth a little bit there. I'm sure we can all just blame my team talk and move on. But sadly for us, we just... I don't know. We played well in that game. We just didn't create enough, sadly for us. The changes didn't really have an impact. But yeah, Tobias, I mean, he's conceded one and he's not made any saves. So it's not a great debut for the new goalkeeper, but we'll give him time. Rome wasn't built in a day. Neither was a forest grown in a day. In terms of what we've got coming up on the horizon, we've got Chelsea and West Ham in our next two games. So it's a difficult start to the year by all accounts. A couple of easier games, but of course we are going to have the Europa League, which is going to be drawn kind of soon. I'm not sure exactly when that's going to fit in around what's already here. So with that in mind, we'll leave things open. I imagine we will be back next time for a Europa League game, but on the off chance we're not, I've given you a warning. Anyway, folks, we'll be back again tomorrow. Let me know what you made of our transfer business. I'm pretty happy with it. Bit of a disappointing start today, but I'm not going to start panicking too much. We were the better team. One shot on target went in. Sometimes that happens in Football Manager, and it's about how you move on and bounce back. Anyway, I would love to know your pre-season predictions down in the comments. In terms of mine, I would be pretty content if we could finish top half this year and have a good long campaign in a couple of cup competitions. I think European football back-to-back years, whilst the dream is just going to be a little bit of a step beyond us. Just, you know, with fixture congestion, squad depth. But either way, we'll discover it, I suppose, over the course of the rest of this year. I will see you guys next time for possibly some European action. It is me, Jack, and I will talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.